Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Today, we're going to be talking about another upper from Delta Team Tactical. You guys have seen them on the channel quite a bit. I get a lot of questions about them. So we're going to do another video on them, do a little bit more in depth on the company itself, what I think are good options, bad options, and this specific upper, which is in 762 by 39, which is the first 762 by 39 upper that I've tested from them. Now, before we get into the video, I do talk to some of the guys on their social media. They do give me a slight discount on their products, so I still pay my own money for them. I don't get anything for free. They don't pay me any money. I do have a discount code with them for 5% off for you guys. That is linked in the description down below. But I do get a slight discount on their products, so keep that in mind throughout the rest of this video. But if you guys would like to help out the channel in any way, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, because of course all that stuff is free. Also, comment on this video. I will select one random comment to win a free plate from my AR500 steel plate business. Any comment, doesn't matter what it is, just comment down below and you have a chance at winning a free plate. On top of that, I also have Subscribestar, which is basically a pro to a Patreon. Also, as I just mentioned, I do run an AR500 steel plate company, and we do sell AR500 steel targets. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, go ahead and hit that link, first link in the description down below. So now let's go ahead and get into the upper receiver itself. First off, of course, this is chambered in 762 by 39, hence the very funky curved. These are the good ones, the D&H magazines, the only good magazines for 762 by 39 and an AR15. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We do have a 10.5 inch barrel. It is a carbine length gas system, which is great for nice dwell time and making it soft enough in a DI platform, which is really, really nice. The barrel itself is actually the exact same barrel, because they buy barrels from Bear Creek Arsenal, because Bear Creek Arsenal makes barrels, and they also sell barrels to other companies for other projects, because they manufacture stuff. So it is actually the exact same barrel as that 10.5 inch 762 by 39. We'll talk about all of this sort of stuff in a minute, but let's go ahead and separate it out so you guys can see just the upper itself, so I can fit more of it on screen. So since I've already mentioned it, we're going to go ahead and get into the barrel, which is basically the most important part of any firearm. Any upper receiver is going to be the barrel quality, how it functions, all that sort of fun stuff. So this is a Bear Creek Arsenal barrel. This is their standard 10.5 inch 762 by 39 heavy barrel. It is a very, very heavy profile. Even though it's only 10.5 inches, this barrel probably weighs about 3 pounds. It has a .750 gas block. It is a dimpled barrel, and it comes with a 1 in 10 twist rate. It's made out of 4150, which is a very hard, very good barrel steel for long life. Not necessarily the most accurate barrel steel like 416 or something else like that, but with this very, very heavy profile, as I've said before, if you give me a heavy barrel, I want it to be accurate. If you give me a heavy barrel and it's not accurate, then you just added a lot of weight to my system without giving me any sort of real tangible benefit. So this upper receiver is a 1 minute gun at 100 yards with very cheap ammunition. I showed you it in my other video with the Bear Creek Arsenal upper, but it will print a 5-round group at 1 inch at 100 yards with Red Army standard 122 grain FMJ. So full metal jacket ball ammunition will shoot 1 MOA out of this upper receiver. Now, 762 by 39, not the fastest round on the market. When you cut off about 6 inches of barrel length versus a full length rifle barrel, you only lose like 150 to 200 FPS. So you're right at around the 2100 FPS range, which is not very much, but you do have a fairly heavy slug, 122 grains versus like 556. So I was able to take this upper receiver out to 300 yards on one of my 11.5 by 20 torso targets, or silhouette style targets actually, and was able to make fairly repeated hits. Now, at 300 yards, you have 10 MOA or more drop with 762 by 39, especially in a short barrel like this. You are really velocity lacking. So that 10.5 inch barrel, while you don't lose a lot of velocity, and especially in this platform where it is very, very accurate, I think that it's pretty much the sweet spot, because it's short, it's very easy to transfer between targets to targets. I can throw on a really big suppressor. This is my Form 1 suppressor. One of the spacers is moving around on the inside of it, so it's making a little bit of noise on me, which I don't really like. But I can throw on an 8-inch suppressor on a 10.5 inch barrel and basically end up with a 16-inch barrel length plus a muzzle device, whatever sort of muzzle device, flash hider, that sort of thing. So I like running it suppressed. and we'll talk about that in conjunction with the barrel. So you get a system that is not super long. Again, it's about the same length as a rifle length 16-inch barrel. You lose like, again, 150 FPS or something like that. You don't really gain anything in terms of weight because the suppressor is fairly heavy, but still incredibly accurate. As I said, 1 MOA with cheap steel case ammunition, and on top of that, the barrel is very well gassed. So when not running it suppressed, I should mention that I've had this upper receiver. I ordered it in October of last year and didn't receive it until November. It takes about 3 weeks to get anything from Delta Team Tactical, myself included. So when I purchase something, I just wait 3 to 4 weeks, generally speaking, to actually receive the product, just like you guys, if you guys order something from them. So with this barrel, about half of it has been suppressed and about half of it has been unsuppressed. 7.62x39 is a very dirty round. Well, cheap ammunition is going to be dirtier than more expensive clean ammunition. Most of the stuff I shoot through it is either Wolf or Red Army Standard, and that's just about it. I do have some Hornady Black, but that's mostly just for accuracy testing purposes. Not really going to shoot a lot of that out of this. So when shooting it unsuppressed, it ejects at around 4 o'clock. So 3:30 to 4 o'clock is fairly standard with, again, cheap ammunition, which is very, very good. It is a very soft shooting caliber, not quite as soft as a well-gassed 5.56. It's still a little more snappy. You have a little more punch out of it, but this barrel and the other barrel, which again, it's good to see that the quality control is there, at least with a sample size of more than one, that the gassing on the barrel is very, very good. Now, when you throw a suppressor on there, for the first 100 rounds or so, it's going to be slightly overgassed, ejecting at around 2 o'clock. But this suppressor, which is a 30 caliber can, has a lot of back pressure and subsequently throws a lot of junk back into the system. So that means after about 100 rounds, everything in the lower, the bolt, everything is just coated in carbon and is very, very sticky and grimy. So after about 100 rounds, what happens is you actually get, again, a well-gassed upper receiver because all that junk is just slowing down the action that much. The camera battery just decided to die on me, so if it looks a little different, that's why. But again, can't say enough good things about the barrel itself. Extremely accurate, extremely well gassed. Even when you put a suppressor on it, because it throws so much junk back up into the system, after about 100 rounds, it starts again ejecting at about 3 to 3:30. And if you let it run for several hundred rounds, it'll start slowing down to about 4 o'clock. So this is one of those systems that you're gonna have to clean more if you throw a suppressor on it, but still, I can't say enough good things about the barrel. Bear Creek Arsenal has done a really, really good job with their 10.5 7.62x39 barrels. Very, very well gassed, very accurate. A little on the heavy side, but again, it is a heavy profile barrel, 10.5 inches. Don't really mind it all that much. Now, talking about the barrel, it is a Type 2 barrel. So it is not your standard 7.62x39 barrel. So if you try and use a normal 7.62x39 bolt, it's not going to work in it. So the bolt, the type that makes it an actual Type 2 is the depth of the bolt face. So on a Type 2, it is 0.136, and on a Type 1, it is 0.125. So if you try and use a Type 1 bolt, it will not work in a Type 2 upper, and of course vice versa. You'll get extra headspace and other stuff you don't want. Now we're gonna go ahead and talk about the bolt carry group. This is actually the same bolt carry group as I used in my 10.5 Bear Creek Arsenal one. So this is actually a Bear Creek Arsenal bolt that I just swapped over, took off the side charging handle, so of course it would fit in a regular upper receiver, and it works just fine in an upper receiver. Now I'm only bringing this out to show you, to demonstrate the difference and the importance of getting an actual Type 2 bolt. So now most people do not call a 7.62x39 Type 2 bolt a 7.62x39 Type 2 bolt, because of course the 6.5 Grendel and thiccq use a Type 2 bolt, which is just known as a 6.5 Grendel bolt. So if you buy a bolt, so if you buy this upper receiver, which does not come with a bolt carrier group, do not buy a Type 1 bolt carrier group. You need to buy a Type 2 bolt carrier group, which is basically just a 6.5 Grendel bolt. So a 6.5 Grendel bolt or thiccq bolt, either of those bolts will work in your 7.62x39 upper if it has a Bear Creek Arsenal barrel in it. So again, if you buy this upper receiver and try and buy a Type 1 bolt carrier group, you can run into issues with that. So just be aware, if you buy one of these 7.62x39 uppers and they have a Type 2 barrel, you need to match that with a Type 2 bolt, which is again a 6.5 Grendel bolt. Of minor note, we do have a steel gas block, which is important. It is a low profile, fairly standard design gas block. It is not pinned, but again, the barrel is dimpled, so there's very, very little chance of that ever moving. But if you guys really want to, you can pin it yourselves or have somebody else pin it for not too much money. Stainless steel gas tube, all standard, all good there. As I mentioned, carbine length system. If we move back from there, talking about the upper receiver, no changes to the upper receiver. It is just a standard 7075 forged upper receiver, nothing special about it whatsoever. Because I'm using this bolt from the side charging Bear Creek Arsenal upper, the dust cover does not close. That's just because the bolt on here is designed for a side charging upper, but it does of course work with a regular upper as well. Standard charging handle, nothing special at all. Didn't even put on an extended latch, just used it as it is. Now the one thing that I did change out on this upper receiver is I actually changed out the handguard. Originally it came with this. This is a M-Lok handguard. This is a 10-inch handguard on a 10.5-inch barrel. Looks perfect. The reason that I swapped it out was that I wanted to run a suppressor on this, and the way that this slightly bends forward towards the top means that I can't run a suppressor on it. So I wanted to run it suppressed, so I picked up this 12-inch quad rail, so it slips over the suppressor, which looks really good in my opinion, from Monstrum Tactical. I paid for this with my own money. They sell them for like 50 bucks. They're fairly good. We're gonna do a video talking about budget quad rails for a different video, but it does work really well. So this was changed, although Delta Team Tactical has offered Monstrum quad rails on some of their other upper receivers. They're not doing it right now, but demand is really high on everything. So originally it shipped with this very nice, very slim M-Lok handguard. It weighs basically nothing. It does use a really good mounting solution in my opinion. It has anti-rotation tabs and also has a clamp on method, so it clamps right onto your barrel nut, which is just fine again. M-Lok 3, 6, and 9, flat top except for just a little Picatinny at the end. So perfect if all you want to run is a front iron sight and a light. If you were mounting some sort of other IR device, laser aiming unit, anything like that, you might want to look into a different rail just because you only have enough space up front for either a iron sight or a light. Though again, you're probably running your light on M-Lok, so you could do it, but it is just Picatinny limited on top. And of course, with the Monstrum quad rail on there, we are certainly not Picatinny limited, so you could put an abundance of things on there. Right now I have some cheap iron backup sights from Trinity Force. I'm running a Surefire G2X in a Picatinny mount on the side here, which is again just a really good budget light, 600 lumens or so. I'm using a GroveTech QD adapter, and of course the GroveTech Sentinel sling system, which is an excellent sling. We'll do a video on this soon, but really good sling setup. Up top, our optic setup is a SIG Romeo 5, which is a excellent budget red dot, basically the best budget red dot on the market, especially if you're trying to do more serious things with it. It will handle an immense amount of abuse and keep going. I'm also running it on a UTG half-inch riser. This UTG riser has 3 screws on the side that lock it down into your upper receiver, and it also has 5 recoil lugs on the inside. It's basically as strong as the upper receiver itself. I've had really good luck with them. It pushes a standard height or a lower 1/3 in this case, so a 153 up to a 203. So it's very tall, very fast. One downside with it is that you need to do something different with your iron sights to make them co-witness through it. So for instance, if you had a little bit shorter iron sights or a little bit taller iron sights, you could look through the window of the optic itself or through the cutout on the mount. The lower that I've been running it on has been the Anderson AM15 multi-caliber lower. It's a fairly standard lower. I've had pretty good luck with Anderson lowers. I was able to buy a bunch of them for like 35 bucks each a while back, so I picked up a bunch of them and they work fairly well. We are outfitted with a mil-spec trigger, a fairly heavy mil-spec trigger. The reason for that, of course, is that certain primers with 7.62x39 are fairly hard to ignite. They're fairly hard primers, so you need a heavy trigger or you need an enhanced firing pin. Generally speaking, excuse me, as of right now, I am not running an enhanced firing pin. I'm just running a fairly heavy mil-spec trigger, and that works 99.9% of the time. Although an enhanced firing pin would be a good idea because every now and again with a certain type of ammunition, I do get light primer strikes, but only every now and again. So as I mentioned, I've had this upper receiver for a couple months now. It has worked 100% reliable. I put not quite 1,000 rounds of 7.62 by 39 through it, but a good amount, and it has worked really, really well, again, including running suppressed. I am running the same bolt that I was running on my Bear Creek Arsenal 10.5, the side charging one. The bolt is actually holding up really, really well. I have not replaced the second extractor, and we're well at over 1,000 rounds on the second extractor, so no issues there. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is that I am running a H2 buffer and a Strike Industries flat wire recoil spring. I get questions about that all the time because I made a video a long time ago about them. I still run them on most of my builds. I do want to say though that it is not needed with how well gassed the barrel is. However, because I run it suppressed a lot, I do like, and I clean it fairly often because I want to maintain its reliability. I want to have a little bit heavier buffer and a little bit better spring just to make it a little more smooth shooting. It will slow down faster when it gets gunked up. So if you were to shoot, say 500 to 1,000 rounds suppressed without cleaning your upper receiver, you probably would just want to run a standard carbine spring behind it because it's going to not be as hard to cycle, and so you're still going to be able to get the full motion of the bolt carrier group in there. Now let's go ahead and talk about Delta Team Tactical, the company, for a minute. I'm going to do a full breakdown on what you should and should not buy from them, but basically one thing that I always do is I always assemble my own uppers. So whenever I buy something from them, I ship it unassembled so that I can put it together myself. I do all of my own sort of quality checks, make sure everything is functioning properly. For me, there's really only two things that matter when buying an upper receiver from Delta Team Tactical. Most of the time they don't come with a bolt carrier group or charging handle. So the only important parts, or I should say the most important parts, are going to be the barrel. So I know that they're 10.5-inch heavy barrels and 7.62 by 39. I know the OEM manufacturer is Bear Creek Arsenal, which I've already had great experience with in that upper receiver, so I know that the barrel is going to be good. The second most important part is going to sound a little surprising, but it's actually the handguard. The handguard, where you're going to be mounting all of your stuff to, that design, how it locks into the upper receiver, that is very, very important, because sometimes Delta Team Tactical puts out some really silly upper receivers where it'll be like a 10-inch barrel or a 7.5-inch barrel with like a 9-inch flash hider on it and a 15-inch rail, so you only have like 7.5, 10 inches of barrel, but you have like a full-length handguard that you just don't need. It's a lot of extra weight and length that's absolutely unnecessary, does not give you any benefit whatsoever, and you're going to pay for that because of course the longer handguns are a little bit more expensive. So it's very important that when you're buying something from them, I would say first off, you need to be competent enough to put together your own upper receiver to a high level, where again, as I have with dozens of upper receivers that I purchased. So I'm confident in my own abilities to do that. If you're somebody who's just starting out, who doesn't know what they're doing, probably not a good idea to jump in on the deep end of making everything run and some of the minutia that comes with that. So for me, who's somebody who has put together a lot of AR-15s, who has made them run very, very well, so I can see by results that I'm fairly good at putting together upper receivers, putting together groups, you need to make sure that your barrel, the OEM manufacturer, is really good. So whether the OEM manufacturer is Roscoe, Bear Creek Arsenal, Ballistic Advantage, Mercury Precision, some of these other companies, you need to make sure that the barrel that you're getting from Delta Team Tactical is good. The upper receiver doesn't really matter to me because most of the upper receivers are just mil-spec, 70-75. They're all within spec. They're all very, very good. No issues with that whatsoever. As long as you're getting a non-aluminum gas block, make sure that it's a steel gas block, a stainless steel gas tube. The barrel profile configuration is something that makes sense. It's not like a 7.5-inch 1 in 12 twist 5.56 barrel, something really weird like that. Make sure that it's a good profile from a good manufacturer, the correct gas system length, the correct parts in that regard, M4 feed ramps, all that sort of fun stuff, which I should mention. This barrel does, of course, have M4 feed ramps, and there are M4 feed ramps extensions in the upper receiver itself. So that combination, again, 100% reliable. Now, if we're going to talk about 7.62 by 39, it is very hard to get away with some of the issues from that. Namely, the first one I would say is actually magazines. If you're going to be running a lot of it, even if Bear Creek Arsenal recommends running ASC magazines, they are poor construction in my opinion. For instance, I have 3 or 4 of them, and 2 of them will not cycle the last 2 rounds in the magazine. So if you load it up to, it's a 28-30 round magazine, so load them up to like 20-30 rounds, somewhere in that range, it still will not feed the last 2 magazines. Not this one. This is a D&H, or sorry, a C Products Duramag. That's the one. C Products Duramags makes the best ones. There's a few different variations of them. This one here is a 28 round magazine. They drop free. They work every time. Last round bolt hold open every single time. Some of the other magazines, ProMag, ASC, Elander, have lots of issues in that regard. The only magazine that I would buy if you're going to stock up is going to be the C Products Duramag, and they make a couple different configurations. They make 28 rounders, 20 rounders, 30 rounders, and they have a couple different designs. They're all very, very good for the most part. The next problem that you're going to run into with 7.62x39 is the bolt. You have a lot less material on the bolt face. Generally speaking, you're going to be going through extractors. There are a couple ways to get around that, but not with Bear Creek Arsenal barrels. So LMT makes a very, very good bolt. That's like $300, but it's a type 1 bolt or a 7.62x39 bolt, so it will not fit or it will not work properly with a type 2 barrel like the Bear Creek Arsenal barrels. So as far as that goes, your options are basically to buy spares. So buy 6.5 Grendel extractors or 7.62x39 type 2 extractors, because again, they're the same thing. That way there you have spares, because they will break on you. There's just no way around that. There's more pressure, there's less material there, so you're going to go through parts much faster than you would on a normal AR15 in 5.56 or 223. So that's about it for that, guys. A really quick synopsis of the upper receiver. Very, very good. Zero issues with the upper receiver itself. Sometimes I have issues with magazines, but that is a problem with the 7.62x39 magazines, except for the C Products Duramag. So let me know what you guys think of this upper receiver in the comments down below. Again, the barrel being the heart of the upper receiver is basically phenomenal. There's basically not a better 7.62x39 barrel on the market for an AR15, especially a 10.5 inch. Now it is a little on the heavy side, but I'm glad to take that weight for the additional accuracy. So like I mentioned in the beginning, just comment down below. Any comment will get you entered automatically in the giveaway. I'm going to give away one of my mini-me targets to anyone who comments. So just comment down there, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Let's see if that helps break us through the YouTube algorithm. On top of that, like I mentioned, if you want to support the channel, there's Subscribestar, just a pro to a Patreon. There's my AR500 targets. If you actually want to purchase some targets from me, we are going to be getting some new designs in fairly soon. But like I said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace off. Look cool?